Sally, we ready to do this?
Just a second, Jackson. Okay, I got the thumbs up. I think we're ready.
Outstanding. With that, we'll go ahead and call the January 20th, 2021 APC public meeting to order. Zach, would you please call the roll?
All right. When I call your name, please signify your presence. Jackson Bogan.
Present.
Larry Leverins.
Present.
Roland Winger.
Present.
Gary Schroeder.
Present.
Gary Reynolds. Absent. Greg Jones.
Present.
Jake Gray. Jake, you're on mute. I can see you. We'll come back to him. Diana Looper.
Present.
Vicky Pearl.
Present.
Michelle Dennis.
Present.
Tom Murtaugh.
Present.
Perry Brown.
Present.
Tracy Brown.
Present.
Jason Domkowski.
Present.
Welcome. Lisa Dullum.
Here.
Kathy Parker.
Present.
Carla Snodgrass.
Here.
And we do have a quorum. All right. So next item of business is for me. I am going to open the floor for nominations for president for the election of the officers slate. This will be president of the APC.
I move to nominate Jackson Bogan for president.
I second.
I move that nominations for president be closed.
I second.
All right, I'm going to call for a voice vote. All in favor of closing the nominations for president, please signify by saying aye.
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 Zach,
Any-
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Jake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any votes
Good night.
against? The vote is unanimous to close nominations for president.
Yeah, I move to cast a unanimous ballot for Jackson Bogan for president.
I second.
All right, all those in favor of casting a unanimous ballot for Jackson Bogan for president, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. So Jackson will now take over as president for this term.
Thank you, Zach. With that, we'll now open it up for vice president.
I move that Larry Leverins be nominated for vice president.
I second.
I move that nominations for vice president be closed.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, voice vote by aye.
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 All opposed? That carries.
I move to cast a unanimous ballot for Larry Leverins for vice president.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Larry. On to the executive committee representatives.
I move that Gary Schroeder and Tom Murtaugh be nominated to represent Tippecanoe County.
I second.
I move that Jerry Reynolds and Jackson Bogan be nominated to represent the city of Lafayette.
I second.
I move that Larry Leverins and Kathy Parker be nominated to represent the city of West Lafayette.
I second.
I move that Greg Jones be nominated to represent the towns of Dayton, Battleground, and Clarks Hill.
Second.
I move that nominations for executive committee be closed.
I second.
All right, we have motion to second on all of the above. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? That carries.
I move to cast a unanimous ballot for Gary Schroeder, Tom Murtaugh, Jerry Reynolds, Jackson Bogan, Larry Leverins, Kathy Parker, and Greg Jones for the executive committee.
I second.
We have a motion to second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? That carries. Area Board of Zoning Appeals, or Zoning Appeals Representatives.
I move that Gary Schroeder and Michelle Dennis be nominated to represent the Area Plan Commission on the Area Board of Zoning Appeals.
I second.
I move that nominations for the Area Board of Zoning Appeals be closed.
I second.
We have a motion to second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? That carries.
I move to cast a unanimous ballot for Gary Schroeder and Michelle Dennis for the Area Board of Zoning Appeals.
I second.
Motion to second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? That carries. Now we're finished with that. Wonderful. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to welcome, we've got Mr. Domkowski here tonight, I see. Be nicer to see you in person, but welcome for the first meeting. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you,
Sally,
Mr. Good to be here.
Sally, on to you for the briefing session.
All the cases that we're hearing tonight are ready to be heard. And just a note on the second subdivision, S4973 Covenant Subdivision, that will need to be continued to the February 3rd Executive Committee meeting because there was a problem with their public notice.
And just to confirm, that is not, that is noted in this already, correct?
That's correct.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Sally. On to the approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from the December 16th, 2020 meeting as submitted.
I second.
Motion in favor or in second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? That carries. New business.
I move to hear and approve Resolution 2021-01.
I second.
Sally?
Yes, I'll have John go to the aerial photo on the front of the, there we go. This is another resolution that has to do with the Consolidated Creasy Central Economic Development Plan. And as we have done a number of months successively, we're going to see another project in downtown Lafayette. This project is on Main Street, and it will be in that A parking lot that lies between the former Kathy's Candies and the Frontier, or the former GTE building on the south side of Main Street. So your role tonight is to make a recommendation and create an order, if you so desire, that this project meets the requirements of the comprehensive plan. In the staff report, there's a history of the Consolidated Creasy Central Economic Development Area and its plan, and a succession of projects that have been added to that plan. The Redevelopment Commission has submitted all appropriate resolutions and exhibits to you as required. And so now you will be asked to adopt this resolution to add this project to the plan as being compliant with the comprehensive plan. The project specifics are that it's a mixed-use project of 5 stories. It'll have approximately 10,000 square feet of first floor retail and 112 interior parking spaces with 98 apartment units. And those units will be a mix of studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedroom. There will be a total square footage of about 170,000 square feet. A total cost estimate is $20 million. And the city will be issuing economic development bond, an economic development bond in the amount of about $3.4 million to support the project and adding about $500,000 in site improvements. In terms of the comprehensive plan, the urban area portion of our land use plan recommends for a compact downtown with major retail facilities and residential infill and intensification. This project clearly does that. Its added benefit is that it will be constructed on what's currently a surface parking lot, which is the most inefficient use of downtown real estate. So it is staff's opinion that the project does comply with the adopted comprehensive plan for Tippecanoe County and recommends your adoption of this resolution.
Thank you, Sally, for yours and all of staff's time that they've put into this. Do we have any questions from the commission members? Hearing none. Sally, anyone there in the room wishing to speak on this?
Not on this case.
Thank you.
Yes,
We'll, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Hello?
Yes, this is Dennis Carson, Economic Development Director for the City of Lafayette. I'm here to answer any questions. We're very excited about this project. You know, this will fill in a big gap on Main Street. So ask for your support. But again, if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Carson. Didn't mean to skip over you. With that, we'll go ahead and pause for 1 minute. I got the timer, and we'll wait for citizens' comments. Okay, any comments, Ryan?
We have none on either platform.
Thank you, sir. With that, Zach, if you'd go ahead and call for the vote.
All right, when I call your name, please signify your vote by saying approve or deny. Jackson Bogan,
Approve?
Larry Leverins,
Approve.
Roland Winger,
Approve.
Gary Schroeder,
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds. Absent, Greg Jones. Greg Jones.
Zach, he just emailed that he lost sound.
Okay, we will, it looks like he may have just arrived back. Greg, are you there?
I'm back.
Okay, the question is approve or deny on this resolution 2021-01, and the vote is to you.
I approve.
Thank you. Jake Gray,
Approve.
Diana Looper,
Approve.
Vicky Pearl,
Approve.
Michelle Dennis,
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh,
Approve.
Perry Brown,
Approve.
Tracy Brown,
Approve.
Jason Domkowski,
Approve.
Lisa Dellum,
Approve.
Kathy Parker,
Approve.
Carla Snodgrass.
Approve.
16 votes in favor, 0 votes against. You do have a written ballot on this. The email should be January 19th at about 11:19 a.m. You please get those ballots filled out and sent to Don. He will let us know when he receives them. Thank you.
Well, so far I have 15 responses, all for approval. And there's 16.
Thank you, sir. So we'll move on to the public hearing, where I get to read a riveting statement, which I know all of you wait for on a monthly basis. For those of you unfamiliar with our procedures, the commission would like you to know the following. When we hear a request to subdivide land, we are only concerned as to whether the actual drawing showing the division into lots meets the technical requirements of our ordinance. The question of appropriateness has already been determined. Anyone wishing to make comments or provide us with the information regarding any subdivision petitions will be given the opportunity to do so. When we are hearing a request for a change in zoning, we are trying to determine if the new zone being requested and the uses allowed in that zone are appropriate to that property and supported by the comprehensive plan. With each of the cases being heard, our staff will present its report. Then the person requesting the rezone will be given an opportunity to speak. Following that, those of you wishing to speak in favor of the rezone will be recognized, and then those of you who wish to oppose it will have a turn. This will be your only time to speak. The person requesting the action will be allowed a rebuttal. Plan Commission members will then ask questions and finally vote. Please limit your statements to no more than 5 minutes. We ask that you not repeat what others before you have already said. We are a 17-member body, and a majority of 17 is 9. Regardless of how many commissioners are actually present, at least 9 votes in favor or 9 votes against are required for our action to be official. If fewer than 9 of us agree to either approve or disapprove an action, that case must be heard again next month. Our vote on a request to subdivide is final. Our vote on a request to rezone serves as a recommendation to the appropriate city council, town council, or county commissioners who must ultimately decide on changes in zoning. When addressing the commission, please state your name and address for the record. Cell phones must be turned off while in the meeting session. If you need to make a call, please step out or hit mute. All exhibits presented to the commission become the property of the commission.
I move that there be incorporated in the public hearing portion of each application be heard this evening and to become part of the evidence at such hearing, the Unified Zoning Ordinance, Unified Subdivision Ordinance, the Comprehensive Plan, the bylaws of the Area Plan Commission, the application and documents all filed therewith, the staff report and recommendations on the application be heard this evening, and responses from checkpoint agencies.
I second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? That carries.
I move to continue S 4973 Covenant Subdivision Minor Sketch to the February 3rd, 2021 Area Plan Commission Executive Committee hearing.
I second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? That carries. On to ordinance amendment.
I move to hear and approve UZO Amendment Number 99, Solar Energy Systems.
I second.
Rabita?
Good evening. Thank you. I can't put my video on because I've been told that all the web space is being used. So please bear with me and you'll only be listening to my audio if that's okay.
Sounds good.
The SES amendment is the result of a collaborative effort, which involved us collecting inputs from stakeholders, general public, student organizations, AOs, members of both APC and ABZA, then assessing standards from other communities with solar ordinances of their own, and finally creating the solar energy system ordinance that would fit our community's need. So in the process of doing that, in October 2020, we shared our draft solar energy system amendment with the ordinance committee and the general public for feedback. Since then, we've received various suggestions from the public, including the West Lafayette Go Greener Commission, city staff, and committee members. Many of these suggestions are included in the amendment, which I will share in a few minutes here. The ordinance committee and staff also extensively discussed an equitable surety method for removing solar energy system, result of which is also included in the amendment. Staff is excited to see these changes to the USO and optimistic that it will provide solar development opportunities in Tippecanoe County. Right. Let me briefly give you an overview of what's included in this amendment. So we have introduced solar energy system in two different sections: accessory use and primary use. Accessory use, as everybody's familiar, would be an accessory to the existing primary use. So if you have a home and you want to add solar panels either on the rooftop or on the facade of your building, or on the land that you own as a ground-mounted system, you would be allowed to do that by right as an accessory structure. You don't even just have to have a house. You can have a business and you would be extended the same accessory use allowance. The second item is that we introduce SES as a primary use, which would allow large-scale solar energy systems to be placed in large acreage of land. And the second one is a community-scale solar energy system, and this was introduced primarily to accommodate institutional uses and also some businesses and homeowners if they're really interested in being energy independent. We foresee this particular use being utilized by institutional agencies in the community. If you could go to the next slide, please, John. So within accessory use, obviously, because it's an accessory use, it would be permitted in all zones as long as there is a established primary use. Under accessory, we have included two different types of accessory uses: building mounted and ground mounted. So within building mounted, if anybody is interested in installing a rooftop system, they can go beyond the allowed height limit, 5 feet above the height limit, and install the roof-mounted system. And if they're interested in installing anything in terms of a facade system, a photovoltaic system that would be incorporated in a hybrid system on the facade, they would be able to use the 3 feet beyond front and rear setback, front and rear of the building, I'm sorry. And then the last one is the side setback, where they would be allowed the same setback as a structural projection in the ordinance. For ground mounted, we have included a maximum height of 15 feet for properties that are in urban areas whereas in rural settings, we are allowing it to go taller, up to 20 feet, provided that they have sufficient land to accommodate that type of installation. And the setback would be same as accessory use. And for ground mounted system, we are excluding it from the lot coverage requirement. Next slide, please. Thank you. Under primary use, for large scale solar energy systems, the ordinance would allow those by right in industrial zones and by special exception in ag and office research zones. For community scale solar energy systems, it will be allowed in all zones by right except floodplain zone. So the major distinction that we make, of course, the installation technique is not different, but the way we introduced two different uses and the way we distinguish them in the ordinance is based on acreage and how they would be utilized by different users. So community scale system would be installed in less than 10 acres for ground mounted, as well as for any acres for building mounted. And large scale would be for area that's 10 acres and more, but the building mounted option would not be available for large scale installation, and practically that's not something a lot of solar developers are interested in pursuing anyway. Next slide, please. So some of the development standards that we have included for solar energy system is common to some of our other development standards that already exist in the ordinance. So terminologies are very similar. I would point out two specific terminologies that would be unique to this specific solar energy system ordinance: pollinator-friendly seed mixes and native plants, and glint and glare, which plus, well, glint and glare is something that we discuss elsewhere as well, not explicitly, but that is something that we looked at as well for this ordinance. And then we introduced decommissioning plan as a new terminology and the process for this particular use. Thank you. So based on what I have shared so far, all the changes related to solar energy system will be will be introduced in different section of the ordinance. The first section would be adding different terminologies related to solar energy system uses, and that is Chapter 1. Section 2 introduces community scale and large scale solar energy system uses to the primary use table. That's Chapter 3. Section 3 and 4 creates setback requirements for accessory solar energy system for both residential and non-residential buildings. That's Chapter 4. Section 5 creates height requirement for accessory solar energy systems. That is also Chapter 4, different section. Section 6 creates new subsection in Chapter 4, establishing development requirements for large-scale solar energy system. Section 7 does the same thing for community-scale solar energy system. Section 8 introduces decommissioning documents, including breakdown of cost for removal of solar energy system and surety forms. And Section 9 updates the mining reclamation section in Chapter 4, because when we introduced Appendix L with different surety forms for decommissioning plan, we thought about adding surety option or surety templates, which would also apply for reclamation, mining reclamation plans, which we didn't have before. So those are the 9 different sections that we will be introducing to our zoning ordinance. And I'll be happy to answer any question you may have or elaborate on any topic presented earlier if needed.
Rabita, thank you very much. As always, very thorough, and appreciate all the efforts that you all put forward on this. Do we have any comments from the commission members, questions?
Jackson, I do know that there is one presentation.
Okay, great.
Are you ready for that?
Well, let's see if there's any questions first, Sally. Any questions or comments from the commission members? Hearing none, we'd love to see the presentation.
Hello, my name is Susan Ulrich, and I am the co-chair of the Environment and Civility Committee for the League of Women Voters here in Greater Lafayette. I represent today not just the committee, but the board and also all our members. Our organization strongly supports development of renewable energy resources, and we would like to commend the APC Ordinance Committee and the APC staff for their work on the proposed solar amendment and the Colonial 5 zoning ordinance. And we urge passage of the amendment as an important step in our community's efforts to achieve a more sustainable future.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lord.
Yep.
Do we have anyone else wishing to speak or comment? Questions?
Yes, I would like to speak. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Oh, great. Okay. Hi. Thank you very much. My name is Maureen Berry, and my address is 3406 Crawford Street, West Lafayette, Indiana. I am here representing the West Lafayette Go Greener Commission. We would like to make a statement in support of the Unified Zoning Ordinance Amendment number 99. The West Lafayette Go Greener Commission is in full support of this solar energy system ordinance amendment being presented today to the Area Plan Commission. The ordinance amendment is thorough, addressing residential and commercial installations. It specifies that solar sites be planted with pollinator-friendly native species, which will nourish the soil, discourage field erosion, encourage local flora propagation, and protect and preserve our community's vital natural resources. The ordinance appropriately regulates, yet encourages solar energy in our county for today and in the future. We commend the authors for their thoroughness and detail, and we encourage the Area Plan Commission to adopt this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berry, for the kind words. Anyone else wishing to speak on this?
I'll have a comment if you're ready for that, Jackson.
Yes, sir.
I just say thanks to Rabita and the staff and the ordinance committee worked on this quite a while. I think we came up with a pretty good ordinance. And as we did with the wind tower ordinance, as we find areas that need to be tweaked or changed, or as technology changes, we will revisit those and make the appropriate changes to continue to encourage the use of the solar panels.
Excellent point, Mr. Schroeder. Thank you for your comments. With that, if we have no one else wishing to speak or comment, we will, actually, Ryan, have we received any citizens' comments? I know a minute has surpassed, so we're okay there. Have we heard anything?
There are no comments on either platform.
With that, Zach, if you would, please.
All right, when I call your name, approve or deny on this amendment. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverins.
Approve.
Roland Winger.
Approve.
Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds, absent. Greg Jones.
Approve.
Jake Gray.
Approve.
Diana Looper.
Approve.
Vicky Pearl.
Approve.
Michelle Dennis.
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Perry Brown.
Approve.
Tracy Brown.
Approve.
Jason Domkowski.
Approve.
Lisa Dellum,
Approve.
Kathy Parker,
Approve.
Carla Snodgrass.
Approve.
16 votes in favor. Please fill out your written ballots and get those to Don, and he will let us know when he receives them. Thank you.
Well, we do have 15 responses all for approval. I think someone is having a little trouble, maybe.
Don, we'll go ahead and move on. If you don't receive it in a minute or so, could you private message them so that they could get that to you and leave it open?
Yeah, I'm leaving it open. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Subdivisions.
I move to hear and vote on S 4971, Gatton Subdivision, minor sketch.
I second.
That's me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This subdivision is located on the north side of Jackson Highway, which is and situated about a quarter mile northwest of the intersection with State Road 26. The property is 18 plus acres. It is owned by the Gatton Farm LLC. The survey was prepared by R.W. Gross and Associates. The site is, as you can see on the zoning map, is all zoned agriculture and surrounded entirely by that. Yeah, go ahead and move to the next slide. And you can, the properties around there are all very similar in size, large lot, residential primarily. This is a 4-lot minor subdivision, but it is also in combination, if you take a look at the sketch plan, John, that is combined with a couple parcels, parcelization approved lots. So there will be actually 6 home sites, well, 5 new home sites along with the existing home that will also be on parcel 3. They're all going to be served by a private street, private drive. The Jackson Highway is classified as a secondary rural arterial, and the required dedicated right-of-way, half-width right-of-way of 40 feet has been shown. There also will be no vehicular access restriction on the plat to guarantee or restrict the use of access from Jackson Highway only to the new private drive. We will need to see an approved street name eventually on the final plat for this private drive. County Highway Department has reviewed and approved this subdivision. There will be a couple lots that will need to put in perimeter drains, restricted by that. But the county surveyor's office has let us know that this project is within the Indian Creek watershed, which does require a little additional more design, which will eventually it will need to be approved by the county surveyor's office or the drainage board on a case-by-case basis. The plat or the sketch plan does show all the correct setbacks, lot widths and everything meet our zoning standards for the ag zone, and staff does recommend conditional primary approval based on the 7 conditions shown in the staff report.
Thank you, Don. Does petitioner or petitioner's representative wish to make any comments?
Greetings. This is Bob Gross from R.W. Gross and Associates. Mr. Gatton is here with us, who is the owner of the property. I might add that this property has been consistently in the Gatton family for some 150 years. But as far as the minor subdivision, the staff report is thorough, and we agree with all the conditions. So we look forward to your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. Do we have any questions or comments from the commission members?
Jerry Reynolds, I'm sorry, but I just arrived.
Welcome, glad to have you. Do we have any citizens' comments?
Yeah, we have one letter.
If you would, please, Ryan.
Sure. This is from Professor Laszlo Gute of 4524 Jackson Highway, West Lafayette. It reads, my property abuts proposed parcels 3 and 4 of the proposed subdivision. Recent years, I have observed serious and dangerous water-induced erosions on my property. I request that before any proposal is granted on Gatton subdivisions, the origin of this erosion is determined and eliminated. Theoretical simulations are not an adequate answer to my objection. Constructions of buildings on the Gatton subdivision will make the problem worse. I have assisted many farmland acquisitions, and possession was granted only after erosion problems were eliminated. Best regards. And presently, we have no social media comment.
Thank you. I do believe, just to put him at ease a little bit, I do believe this must still go before the drainage board. Is that correct, Don?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much.
Conditions approval.
Thank you. So that should put him at ease a little there. Any other comments, questions? And we've had a minute for citizens' comments. So Zach, if you would, please.
All right. So what I call you to vote by saying conditionally approve or deny. Jackson Bogan.
Approve conditionally.
Larry Leverance.
Conditional approval.
Roland Winger.
Conditional approval.
Gary Schroeder.
Conditional approval.
Jerry Reynolds.
Conditional approval.
Greg Jones.
Conditional approval.
Jake Gray.
Conditional approval.
Diana Looper.
Conditional approval.
Vicky Pearl.
Conditional approval.
Michelle Dennis.
Conditional approval.
Tom Murtaugh.
Conditional approval.
Harry Brown.
Conditional approval.
Tracy Brown.
Conditional approval.
Jason Domkowski.
Conditional approval.
Lisa Dellum.
Conditional approval.
Kathy Parker.
Conditional approval.
Carlos Snodgrass.
Conditional approval.
We are back up to 100% attendance, 17 votes in favor. If you could please fill out your ballots and get those to Don. He will let us know when he gets them. Gary, that email should be, I think it's January 19th around 11:19 a.m. And we are on S4971 Gatton Subdivision.
Okay.
Thank you for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Gross.
We've got 16 responses for conditional primary approval. Still lacking. I'm going to leave this open also, see if we can't get that person connected.
Thank you, Don. We'll move on to C, rezoning activities.
I move to hear and approve Z 2813, Century Real Estate Holdings LLC A to GB.
I second.
Ryan?
Okay, let's go to the zoning map if we could. All right, as you can see, we're in a heavily ag zone. Ag, zone here. We've got floodplain zoning to the east, some commercial zoning along 52-231, and then we have kind of a scattering of R1 and R2 zones further afield. Petitioner on this site plans to build a 7,200 square foot warehouse and office for the Century Electrical Group company. In terms of zoning patterns, most recent activity on this site was from the 1991. A special exception was approved by the BZA for an outdoor commercial recreational enterprise, a golf driving range, and that would have been under the old ordinance. So that's all the activity that's been happening in terms of zoning. Of course, we have the railroad tracks to the south. Purdue's Agronomy Center is north of 52 there, and then lots of residences kind of scattered around all the ag land that's in crop production. Mobile Home Park is to the northeast, Candlelight Mobile Home Park. And then we have, as we mentioned with those commercial zones, there's a modest amount of commercial activity within them. Thoroughfare plan classifies 52 West as a limited access highway, as you can imagine, divided primary arterial. Current access to the property is from 52, and a driveway permit would be required from NDOT for this proposed change of use. Parking requirements: 1 space per employee on the largest shift, plus 1 per 200 square feet of office, sales, or other similar floor area. Once a building permit is submitted, then that calculation could take place. In terms of environmental considerations, let's see, American Water has stated their ability to serve the site, but is awaiting a response from American Suburban Utility, which has not submitted a statement. The health department said that there is already a commercial septic system that was installed for the driving range currently on the site and could serve the proposed use, according to County Health Department. The land use plan in the comp plan has this shown as a residential, open space, and agriculture future for the current property and its immediate surrounds. And this is largely based on the lack of sanitary sewer. So staff is consistently recommended against upzoning or commercial rezones off the sewer grid. And in this case, we have no reason to overturn that. So as we mentioned in here, staff could support the GB rezone with a commitment to restrict the use to what they're looking to do upon getting confirmation from American Suburban that they could actually serve the site. But without either of these, staff feels there's a lot of incompatible uses that could go out here that on a site this size that would not necessarily benefit the community or the immediate neighbors out there. So given the fact that it's off the sewer grid, with that future in question, and the land use plan's recommendations and staff's opinion are still valid, and so we are recommending denial. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. Petitioner's representative wish to speak on this?
Yes, thank you, Jackson. Kevin Riley, attorney with Riley, Teeter, and Schreier, representing the petitioner. Wanted to start by, and I'm sorry, David Hedden, who is on the management team of the petitioner, is here as well and can answer any questions you might have that I can't answer. Wanted to mention that earlier this morning, we did submit a letter to Area Plan from American Suburban Utilities indicating that that we could get sanitary sewer to this site. So I wanted to point out that letter has been provided. So we, in our opinion, we have satisfied the biggest concern that that staff had with respect to sanitary sewer. Also wanted to point out that we think that this general business is compatible with the area. First of all, the previous use, a golf course, was a commercial use, a business. So it wasn't ag, it wasn't residential. So it's not as though there's never been a business operated at this site. Also, when you look to the east and the west, as shown on the map, there's some GB, and certainly farther east, there's a significant amount of general business. So we think it's appropriate for this area. Client plans to invest about $500,000 into the property to improve it, which is going to put this property really back into use. It's currently, I think it's been out of use for several years now. So certainly would put this back into use. It's not going to be a high traffic development. There will be only 3 employees at this site. They will not all be there at the same time. Every time, I guess I should clarify, one of them works remotely quite a bit. There are no clients that will come to this site, and to our knowledge, there are no objections from any of the neighbors. So we think that the general business request is appropriate, and we would appreciate your approval.
Thank you very much, Mr. Riley. Do we have any questions from the commission members?
Jackson, this is Larry. Ryan, you say in the staff comments, you talk about a conceptual plan that has a building, warehouse office building, and over lot lines, and you didn't address that. Is that something that's been worked out?
Let's see. Well, subdivision action would have to take place to fix that problem. You're right. We do have 3 tracks here. So if rezoned, obviously as we mentioned in the staff report, residential use of the existing structure wouldn't be permitted, and of course the special exception use ceases to be valid. It's probably long ago expired because of the year-long situation. So yeah, we'd be looking at a commercial subdivision to consolidate this.
So
Ryan, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I have a question in regard to the letter that Kevin referred to from ASU. So does that change the recommendation at all? I see that you're in the last paragraph of the staff report. You mentioned that the staff would want to see a commitment in addition to a confirmation from ASU.
Right. We would still hold to that simply because this is a bit of a spot zone situation when you look back at the zoning map. We have some commercial zones, further to the east and further to the west. This is kind of right in the middle. And these sorts of satellite type environments, out on the urban fringe into, transitioning into the rural, semi-rural areas, our overall land use policy for commercial activity is centered on nodes of activity. Usually major street intersections are appropriate places for commercial activity to exist. And so, given the relative isolation of this site, its size, I think as an added precaution, staff would continue to favor using a commitment to restrict the uses. So that there's a little more surety for the neighbors about what can and can't happen here. Certainly, if you're correct, if sewer can be achieved and ASU is committing to that, then that certainly does check one of the 2 boxes. But in our professional opinion, the commitment still kind of makes sense. If this was a little bit closer or contiguous to one of those commercial zones that's either to the west or to the east, I'd probably be singing a different tune.
So do you think, though, the availability of ASU line there changes the use of this entire corridor? So in other words, it wouldn't necessarily be just GB at the intersections?
It potentially could, but if you kind of notice, if this site fills in, then the others, there's usually a commercial stripification that can start to take place, where the gaps between the commercial nodes fill in, and you kind of have an unbroken commercial situation. And I don't know if that's necessarily desirable out here. Perhaps it is, but like I said, I think we're still kind of holding to that idea of a commercial node activity. And I'd have to see exactly where, where could sewer be extended, because you're correct. If it can kind of dominate this immediate vicinity and there's easy access to it, then that does, open up this area. And honestly, the land use plan should probably be relooked at in light of that potentiality, so that we're, nailing future land uses correctly.
And last question is, does the fact that ASU is available to this site make it mandatory that they hook up to the site?
I think per the health department, yes. If sanitary sewers within striking distance, they have to, and they are redeveloping, then they would have to necessarily abandon that commercial septic and hook on.
Okay, thank you.
This is Sally. If I could say a word. One of our big concerns, it's a large site. It's 13 acres, and the proposed user is fairly modest with, their need is only for 7,200 square foot building. The potential exists once zone GB, and if they have sanitary sewer, this could be any number of potentially intrusive uses on 13 acres, which is why we much preferred having a commitment. If in fact this is the only thing that's going there, I don't think anybody on staff objected to that. We just thought there was a better way to guarantee that it was going to be as petitioner said.
Sally, I tend to agree with this. Ryan, I have a question, because the term in your report with a commitment to highly restricted future uses is a fairly broad term. Obviously, I think the petitioner would need to work with staff in order to change that if they would choose to do so, or to specifically list for the use of a electrical contracting business.
Right.
Would either of those be acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to skin the cat. If the commitment is to the use shall only be this business that I'm proposing, then that would seal the deal.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're right, staff would be open to discussing potential additions to that list of things they might be able to do.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this?
Gigantic 13-acre used car dealership? Probably not. So
right.
For example.
Could this be? This is Vicky. I have a question. Could it have been neighborhood business or no?
That is a good question.
Not for this use, Vicky. One of the things that staff is going to look at is it could have been allowed in the existing ag zoning with a special exception if their building was 5,000 square feet. And what staff would like to look at is maybe increasing the size of that limitation so that we wouldn't force people into this kind of a request for GB in places that we think are potentially inappropriate. So we hope to come up with a better solution for this kind of business operation, but it'll take a little time. So in the meantime, that's why our suggestion was if they can get sanitary sewer, then let's do it as a commitment.
I have one more comment, but I'll hold that comment before. I'd like to know if we have any other questions or comments from the commission members first, and then give the public a chance to speak.
Jackson, Gary here. I have a comment, and
yes, sir.
I agree with you and the staff that to rezone 13 acres GB when only a very small portion to be used for this use does not seem like the best solution. from a procedural standpoint, I'm just curious if that gets denied tonight, can they come back with a commitment, or should they do a commitment before, or should they reduce the amount of land they want to rezone to GB? I'm just wondering about that 1 year waiting period. If they're not.
Well, the 1 year waiting period doesn't kick in unless the county commissioners deny it. So they could ask for continuance, and I think the bylaws give them maybe up to a week, at least a few days, to get with us and file a commitment and then not miss the next meeting.
And it is the petitioner's decision here. Generally in the past, Kevin, if you need a few minutes to talk to your client, we've taken a recess. But if you also, if you want to go forward with the vote, it's petitioner's decision. So we'll take public comment here, and then we'll have time for rebuttal, and we'll wait to hear from Mr. Riley.
Real quick, Zach, before we get to public comment, do we have any more questions or comments from the commission members?
This is Roland. A question, Ryan, you mentioned the thought that this feels like a spot zone. We've got the GB on the nodes at either intersection east and west of this. This is a large plot for sure. But while the property on the north side of 52 or 231 there is ag, it is somewhat commercial in the fact that it's Purdue's farm there. Does that affect your view of the how spot zoning this feels, or does that temper that?
Not really. The Purdue farm, I mean, it's I believe it's trustee-owned land, and so it would be exempt from zoning anyway.
Right.
They can kind of do what they want out there. But it is an agricultural use that they're doing. Granted, it's institutional / agricultural. And yeah, that sort of non-residential use would certainly be more compatible than if there was a subdivision, of homes out here, or a rural estate or something like that. So yeah, it does lessen the degree a bit. But given Purdue's isn't a typical landowner developer, we sort of have to look past them a little bit and look at the rest of the land around it, as if it could potentially redevelop. And a big 13-acre site of commercial zone land would likely spur the adjacent neighbors to do similarly. And it's a development pattern that we really try to limit, and that's commercial stripification. And when these flags start getting planted on corridors, this is where it can start. And so this is an opportunity to maybe potentially nip it in the bud a little bit. And again, provide a little more surety for the neighbors and for the community about what can and can't go here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have any other comments, questions from the commission members? Now we'll take public comment if there is any.
There are presently no comments on social media.
Sally, anybody there?
Not for this case.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and add my last comment. And Kevin, I don't know if you've got a chance for a rebuttal, obviously, with our questions and comments, but the feeling that I'm getting right now, and Mr. Schroeder showed his hand, I believe, I'll show mine. I'm not comfortable with the large piece of land that is there and rezoning the entire thing GB without a commitment of sorts. And so it is up to you. You can tell us to proceed with the vote. You are also more than you are able to speak with your client, table it, bring it together next month, however you'd like to proceed. I personally don't like to turn people down for what it very much appears that those staff would like to approve, but just not to the magnitude and size that we are
David and I haven't had a chance to really discuss it, unfortunately. I guess, David, are you okay? So if we went forward with the commitment, it would be heard at the next meeting, provided we got the commitment in place in time?
That's correct. And Kevin, like I said, we've done this in the past. If you need a couple-minute recess, you can disconnect, call your client. We'll certainly provide for that. We can take a few minutes, and just go on recess if you need to speak to him quickly.
Yeah, if you could give me a couple minutes, that would be good.
Okay. So Jackson, I'd recommend as the chair, you just recognize a short recess here to allow Mr. Riley to convene with his client. We'll come back in 7:10. Would that be enough time? Okay.
Out of curiosity, Zach, is it possible to move to the next one if Mr. Riley does not have that one?
Not while we have this pending. Let's get this business closed before we move on.
Everybody can take a tinkle break. We'll reconvene in 5 minutes.
Come in here.
You turned your video off?
I did not. It's on.
Kevin, are you ready?
Yes, thanks. You want me to go ahead?
Yeah, it looks like we're at 7:10. Yep, let's go ahead.
Okay. I guess procedurally I had a question. Can we, is it possible to table this? And then if we were to decide to pursue a commitment, pursue that commitment while this is tabled, and then be heard at the next meeting?
Yeah, so procedurally, what we'd be doing here is, Kevin, you just ask for a continuance. You'd get moved onto the next meeting's agenda. You know, you'd have a hearing regardless. And then if you get the commitment done, staff would change their report. They'd file a new report, and then we'd vote on that. But if you ask for a continuance, it sounds like consensus is you'll get it. Then you'll be set on next month's agenda regardless of, you know, what you do with the commitment.
Okay. Then yes, we're going to request a continuance. We could.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Jackson, you can do that just by voice vote consensus.
Thank you. We'll need somebody to make that motion. Gary?
I move that we continue Z 2813 Century Real Estate Holdings LLC to the February 17th, 2021 Area Plan Commission meeting.
I second.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request for a continuance until next month's meeting is granted. Thank you, Mr. Riley and Mr. Hedden. Appreciate your time and efforts here. And staff, thank you for working with us on this one. On to Z2814.
I move to hear and approve Z2814 Bethany Rainey R1 to R2.
I second.
Okay. This request is from R1 to R2. And as we can tell, this property is a lot in one of the earlier phases of Green Meadows Subdivision. We're located west of West Lafayette in Wabash Township. On the bottom of your screen is State Road 26, and this is Klondike Road. The property in this request is a duplex, as you can tell here from the double driveways. If I go back to the zoning map, I wanted to show how there are a few properties that are zoned R2 in the neighborhood. After staff did some research about the development of this area, we discovered that much of this area began development before a zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance had been adopted for the unincorporated areas of Tippecanoe County. Based on the county assessor's data, this structure was built in 1963. Zoning took effect in the unincorporated county in 1965. Typically, this would have received conforming zoning, but for whatever reason, it did not. So this request is simply to make a long-standing non-conforming use conforming. There are no other proposed changes to it. Because the area is a mix of single-family homes and duplexes, and if you look here along Pine Avenue, further to the east is a newer development done of duplexes, as well as a few adjacent to the west and east of this property. So staff is able to support a rezone for this longstanding non-conforming use to make it conforming.
Thank you very much, John. Petitioner's representative wish to speak in regards to this?
Hi, just trying to basically do what the gentleman just said. We're looking to change it to R2 due to the fact that we would like to get an appraisal done and be able to obtain a loan on the property. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Rainey. Is there any questions from the commission members? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor or opposition of this petition? I will start the clock for citizens' comments for 1 minute.
Okay.
All right. Do we have anything, Ryan?
We have no comment on this item.
Thank you. Zach, if you would, please.
All right, when I call your name, please signify your vote on Z 2814. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverins.
Approve.
Roland Winger.
Approve.
Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Greg Jones.
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds.
Approved.
Jake Gray.
Approve.
Diana Looper.
Approve.
Vicky Pearl.
Approved.
Michelle Dennis.
Approved.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Perry Brown.
Approve.
Tracy Brown.
Approved.
Jason Domkowski.
Approved.
Lisa Dolan.
Approve.
Kathy Parker.
Approve.
Carla Snodgrass.
Approve.
17 votes in favor. You do have a written ballot. Make sure you get the right one. This is Z 2814 Bethany Rainey. And Don will let us know when he gets those. Thank you.
We have 17 responses, all for approval.
Thank you, Don. We're becoming more efficient.
bet.
On to Z2815.
I move to hear and approve Z 2815 Manilow Renting LLC I-1 to GB.
I second.
Larry?
There you go. As you can see, this site is the old Kiger Bakery. It's surrounded by the Torchwood condos to the southeast and the Payless to the southwest. The petitioner, who's the property owner, is requesting rezoning of the old Kiger Baker property located along State Road 38 East. Petitioner plans to remodel some of the existing buildings for storage and office space. This property was rezoned in 1998 for the expansion of the old commercial bakery. This rezone allowed the use to be expanded to the adjacent property to the northwest, so they could service more clients. Staff is in favor of this rezone because it would allow the expansion of this zoning pattern along 38. The current industrial uses would allow more incompatible uses with the neighboring properties. So we can support the rezone request to make a more consistent pattern along the corridor.
Thank you very much, Larry. Petitioner's representative wish to speak on this?
Good evening. My name is Agatha. I'm with GATA. I'm with Manila Renting LLC. And like Larry said, we're just wanting to upgrade and give it a better look and more better appeal to the community and get some renters in there. So we look for your approval on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gaeta. Do we have any questions from the commission members? Do we have any public comment in regards to this petition?
Presently, nothing on social media.
We'll give it about 45 more seconds. And okay, Ryan, anything now?
Still no comment on this item.
Thank you. Zach, would you please?
All right, when I call your name, please signify your vote with approve or deny. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverins,
Approve.
Ron Winger,
Approve.
Gary Schroeder,
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds,
Approve.
Greg Jones,
Approve.
Jake Gray,
Approve.
Diana Looper,
Approve.
Vicky Pearl,
Approve.
Michelle Dennis,
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh,
Approve.
Harry Brown,
Approve.
Tracy Brown,
Approve.
Jason Domkowski,
Approve.
Lisa Dullum,
Approve.
Kathy Parker,
Approve.
Carla Snodgrass.
Approve.
17 votes in favor. Make sure you get the right ballot. Z2815 Manolo Renting LLC, and Don will let us know when he receives those. Thank you.
Hey, Don, do you have to open this up? I am unable to click. Are you there?
Yeah, yeah.
Does anyone
you're
else
not
have any
able-
problems writing their name in?
I had no issues.
I had no
I've got
issue.
six. You're the only one.
Yeah, it's not allowing. Okay, well, you don't need my vote anyways, so we'll move on. No, I'm having an issue here, so I don't know what's going on, but I approved, and we can figure it out tomorrow. We'll go on to Z2816.
I move to hear and approve Z2816, Michael E. Mulder, A to RE.
I second.
Ryan?
Okay. All right. Well, as you can see from the zoning map, we have a very large area of ag zoning, floodplain off to the northeast, and R1 further up to the north there. We have this is an RE petition, and this is fairly simple. The proposal is a proposed real estate subdivision of 12 lots, plus the 2 lots in the Moulter Minor 4 subdivision and 2 parcels in the P2023 Zana Corporation. The 25-acre rezone site comes from a 40-acre parent tract that had 2 minor subdivided lots, 2 parcels created from it. Basically, all the development rights have been used, so there's no further minor subdivisions or parcelizations that could be achieved. So the only tool left to divide and develop this land would either be, in terms of a by right process, would be the rural estate zone. So in short, this site qualifies across the board. It meets all the requirements for the rural estate zoning found in UZO section 229. Most of the acreage, as you can see, has been wooded since way before 1997 through today. So it's complying with that non-tillable clause in the RE standard. So this site fits it to a T. So we are recommending approval of Z2816. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. Petitioner's representative wishing to speak on this?
Good evening again. This is Bob Gross from R.W. Gross and Associates. And I might say Mike Moulter is the owner, is present as well. As always, the staff report is thorough, and we're both here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. Do we have any questions from the commission members? Hearing none. Citizens' comments?
Yes, we have citizens in the room that would like to speak.
Thank you, Sally. If you would, please state your name and address for the record when it's your turn to speak, please.
Yes, my name is Tom Richardson. My address is 5796 State Road 28 East. I am a property owner that is contiguous with this parcel. My brother's here with me. He has the other property that is contiguous with this parcel on the north side. Mine is on the east side. The question we have here, and as we look through the proposals and so forth, I see nothing on drainage. That property has been in the family farm since the 60s. My father owned the farm that was just north of that. He bought that in 1948. And so we're very aware of what that property looks like and how it's performed over the years as farm ground and so forth. And I can tell you that woods is wet. It's very wet. I don't know if there are springs in that woods, but there's water that stands there just about year round. And it's just some surface water that'll stay in there. One thing I can tell you is that there's 4 outlets for water off of that property. One of them is at the far south end of the parcel, and it actually drains to the east. If you look at the property just about to the east of that, that's the section that I own. And if you just about follow the green and brown, the division there between the green and the brown, that is about a waterway that we've tried to maintain and keep the water off of our particular property there. There's another outlet from that woods that is just about, if you look to the north of it, it's just about to where the brown strip is there. If you look at the right-hand side of that brown strip, there's a little waterway that comes out of the woods there. There's water that runs on the west side of that woods, especially when you get big rains and so forth. It'll actually run down through the property that is north of that to the ditch that is down there across from the farmhouse. There, if you see the farmhouse there at 700 South and 200 East, which would be at the north end of my brother's property, which is, you see the buildings in the north west corner of that particular area. It runs diagonally down across that field, and in times of high, a lot of rain, we'll basically have a river there. Actually, in talking with Jim Butcher here a year or so ago, they came out and redid the drainage across that road there and opened up that ditch so water would be able to get away a little better than what it does now. The fourth place where the water actually exits that particular property is just south of where the proposed driveway is into the property. And there's actually I don't know if it's 8-inch culvert that goes underneath the road there, but there's water that runs in that direction also. So this is a wet piece of property, especially in the woods. Obviously, the front part of it has been farmable, but there along the woods, it is quite wet. Let's see. That since we see no drainage on the proposal, we would recommend there be a drainage assessment made to this particular property so that water is not unduly placed onto my brother's property, which is to the north, nor my property to the east. I think there needs to be some way for that water to get away from that particular woods. If they're putting the
Mr. Richardson, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We generally try to keep our comments to 5 minutes, and we're about 5.5 now. So hopefully either staff or Mr. Gross can address these questions regarding drainage and the water.
Okay, that would be
Thank
fine.
you.
I do have one more point I'd like to make though too. And I talked to Mr. Gross yesterday. We had a survey done on that in 2012. And the property corners were marked at that particular time by Moses Surveying in Frankfort, Indiana. And I noticed up there on the property yesterday that there was some stakes that was placed out into my hayfield, and we didn't have any answers for why they are there. You know, I would say, you know, obviously I'm concerned because this is not where the property line is according to Moses Surveying.
Okay, staff, would you like to comment on the drainage piece?
Sure. Well, as we mentioned in the staff report, based on the soil work that was done for the Multer-4 minor subdivision and the parcelization, drainage easements would be required for all of the proposed lots, most likely. But we are looking at, you know, a drainage board approval, kind of sealing the deal on this, and that has yet to take place. And so, so that's what's the coming attractions would be in order for them to, you know, move forward to, get to the preliminary plat stage on this. So,
Ryan,
Don or Sally, did I leave anything out?
Ryan, do you know when this would be heard, if it goes through, when it would be heard at the drainage board, what the date would be, so that Mr. Richardson could attend and express his concerns? Mr. Richardson, I understand your points, but what you're discussing here is not something we actually have any control on, or this
Okay.
board, I should say. And so I'm not trying to direct you, but I'm trying to direct you to the appropriate spot.
And
Understand.
Excuse me, this is Don. They will go through the subdivision process. This is not the subdivision process. This is a rezone that is simply going to tell them whether they can actually proceed with the subdivision. Okay. And the subdivision process will include drainage board approval that should address all these issues. That we have a county drainage board that, and the county surveyor's office will work on that at appropriate time, which would be after the preliminary plat public hearing. There would then be a drainage board public hearing that the petitioner's surveyor engineer would have to prepare plans for.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Lamb.
Okay.
Does that make more sense, Mr. Richardson?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Jackson?
Yeah.
I'll also spend a minute or two with these folks so that we're sure they understand what the process will be going forward.
Sally, thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this? Okay. With that, we will move on. Well, we've got to wait for citizens' comments. Ryan, we've had more than a minute. Any comments?
Yeah, there are no comments on social media presently.
Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson was muted, but he had a question about whether Mr. Gross would respond to his concern about the survey stakes.
Okay, Mr. Gross?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. We are looking into that. At this point, I really don't have an answer. But we are looking into it.
Bob, will you be in touch with these folks?
Well,
Either during or
I
after your
talked to-
investigation?
I talked to Mr. Richardson yesterday, and I informed him at that time, once we determine that we'll get back with him.
Great, thank you.
Glad to. We can sit down and go over it.
Wonderful. Okay. With that, I believe it's time with no further comments. Ryan or Zach, if you would.
All right, when I call your name, please signify your vote by saying approve or deny. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverins.
Approve.
Ron Winger.
Approve.
Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds.
Approved.
Greg Jones.
Approve.
Jake Gray.
Approve.
Diana Looper.
Approve.
Vicky Pearl.
Approved.
Michelle Dennis.
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Perry Brown.
Approve.
Tracy Brown.
Approved.
Jason Domkowski.
Approve.
Lisa Dellum.
Deny.
Kathy Parker.
Approve.
Carla Snodgrass.
Approve.
The vote is 16 votes in favor, 1 vote to deny. So that is approved. Please get your ballots to Dawn. And again, make sure you get the right one on this. This is Z2816.
Thank you very much.
We have 17 responses, 16 for approval, 1 for denial.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we will go into administrative matters, and I'll turn the mic over to Mr. Winger.
Thank you, Jackson. Back in September, the commission approved the launch of our search for the new executive director to follow Sally after her retirement, in hopes that we could come to the full commission with a recommendation for hire in December. We said at that time, though, it may be into January. Well, we're into January, but we do have good news in the fact that we are in the final stages of the extension of a contingent offer with a candidate that the committee is ecstatic and unanimous in support of. Because of the time requirements, things are moving very quickly here. We would like to have been able to do this tonight at a regular meeting. Our request would be that we hold a special meeting next Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. that can be a virtual meeting. I don't believe that we will need too much time, but what I would intend to do there would be to fully detail the process. And again, the executive committee that the commission that Jackson appointed for this was myself, Commissioners Murtaugh and Brown, Jackson, Greg Jones representing the towns, Mayor Dennis, Mayor Rosworski, who even then brought their development people and city engineer in to participate. We'd like to hold this meeting. I will go through the, again, the process that was used and cover the selection and why it's been made, and to then request formal approval from the full commission. So tonight, I'm happy to answer any questions that I can answer since we're in final stages of checks and things. Things do need to remain confidential. Else I'd love to tell you more at this point, and I'm sorry that if that comes off as being a little bit coy, and that is not intended. So if I can answer questions, but I would also like to ask, would we be able to have a quorum for 6 p.m. next Tuesday evening in a virtual meeting. So it may be asked, how many folks cannot attend next Tuesday at 6 p.m.?
That is Tuesday, the 26th at 6 p.m.
Right. Looks like Kathy cannot attend. Okay. Lisa. Jackson, I request that we could go ahead and move forward with 2 known absences. We'd be happy to loop back with both Kathy and Lisa to provide information on around that time.
Sounds great. 15 out of 17, not bad for the spur of a moment meeting. So we'll look forward. Do we need a motion, Zach, for a special meeting?
No, I think the chair, as long as there's a consensus that there's no issue, will ministerial
I
action.
do believe we have to post notification on the county's board that there will be a meeting, but it will be an executive session meeting. Is that correct?
Well, that's a different decision. So two parts first. Sally, do you know, and maybe if China's on here, will we have time to get that posted?
Correct.
We
It's
will.
48 hours, I believe.
Okay, and we'll have time, as long as we have time to get that posted. The second question is, if this is to enter into a formal contract and accept that generally wouldn't be done in a executive session. An executive session would be more along the lines if there was going to be, formal interview processes like we've done in the past, that type of thing. So I think it more depends on where Rollins at with his committee, if he thinks he's going to be ready for final action on that, or if he thinks this is going to be a true executive session where there's not going to be any formal action taken.
And Zach, I believe we are looking to have formal action taken at the Tuesday meeting.
Okay. So with that, Sally, that won't be an executive session. We'll post a normal meeting.
So all I need to do is prepare the agenda and make sure it gets posted.
Yep.
Great. Thank you all for taking some more personal time to help the county on this. That's great.
Zach, I just have a quick comment, and maybe Jackson did that from my remembrance to call a special meeting. The president can do that just by saying we're going to have a special meeting, or any 2 members, and maybe Jackson said that already, but just so we have
I'll do it for clarification, and it's in the minutes. We are going to call a special meeting on Tuesday.
I thought I said Wednesday.
Tuesday, January 26th at 6 p.m. The link will be emailed to everyone, as the meeting will be virtual.
Correct.
Thanks, Gary, for that.
Welcome.
With that, thank you, Rollin. Appreciate all your efforts here. I know it's been a long deal for you, so thank you very, very much. On to approval of the February Executive Committee agenda.
Jackson, we've got the contract for legal counsel.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was not a problem. Why don't we review that? That's a good idea.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we are losing Zach, but we have the opportunity to keep the firm, and in Zach's place have Eric Burns be our primary legal counsel. So the executive committee had a discussion about this. We tweaked the contract with Wither & Burns LLP. The only differences are to indicate in the contract that Eric Burns is the primary attorney from the firm for the Plan Commission. And then we increased the hourly rate to $200 an hour, which is the same as the county pays the county attorney. The fee we pay fluctuates as the county attorney's fee fluctuates, but we put into the contract what the fee was at the time of the creation of this contract. So that's it, and the executive committee was recommending approval of the new contract with firm.
Thank you, Sally. Any questions from the commission members?
Do we need an official motion to approve that?
I believe we will.
Yes, please.
I move that we accept the new legal contract as submitted.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll take a voice vote on this. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That carries. On a personal note, Zach, I know myself, along with many others, are very, sad to see you go. You represent us well, and we thank you for all of that. And we wish you, all of us wish you the best in your endeavors.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. I enjoyed it greatly. It's been one of the best things in my legal career. I'm glad I got to know most of you. I wish you all the best. I'm sure you'll see me around, and hopefully I'll make it over to Preston's once we all get back to some normalcy here soon. So, but
We would
thank
like
you
that.
very much for letting
We'd like
me
that in
work
the
with you
first ones
folks.
only.
There we go. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackson, I'll need for you and Eric to come down to the office in the next few days and sign the contracts if you would.
I will do so.
Will do.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, on to the approval of the February Executive Committee.
I move that the following requests for subdivision be placed on the February 3rd, 2021 Area Plan Commission Executive Committee agenda at petitioner's request. Placement thereon being without reference to compliance or non-compliance with the adopted subdivision ordinance. Those would be S 4974 Artesian Electric Minor Subdivision Minor Sketch and S 4975 JETC2 Minor Subdivision Minor Sketch.
I second.
Motion a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? On to determination of variances.
I move that the following requests for variance from Unified Zoning Ordinance are not requests for use variance prohibited from consideration by ordinance and statute. And that is BZA 2047 Design Team Sign Company LLC.
I second.
Motion a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? That carries.
Regarding BZA 2047 Design Team Sign Company LLC, I move that the sign section of the UZO be strictly adhered to.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Director's report, Sally?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to emphasize out of the written report that you received is are these bills that have been introduced in the state legislature. These are two that I'm aware of at the moment. There may be others that will raise some concerns for local control of planning. But the first one is a Senate bill, and it's concerning because it would prevent us from requiring a developer to dedicate adequate right-of-way per the thoroughfare plan along any abutting roads. We have done that since 1962. Developers know that that's a requirement. It is hardly an overreach by local government to do that. And I think it would create a huge disservice in the sense that either county and cities would have to purchase that right of way, which they don't have any money to do, or we would end up dumping a whole new vehicles worth from a development onto a potentially inadequate existing road. So that bill is of big concern. And the other one that I learned about even more recently is that our buddy Ellington down in Bloomington has introduced a House bill again that would once again try to prevent local regulation of something like the quarry in Americas. So we are watching that, and I will investigate that a little more thoroughly, but I am quite sure at this point that it is, if not the same, it has the same effect as the bill he introduced in past years.
Sally, do you know that bill number?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Do you know the number of that House bill?
Yes, it's 1573.
Okay, thank you.
And the Senate bill is 208. So if you're so inclined, any kind of communication with legislators would be appreciated.
Thank you, Sally. Citizens' comments and grievances.
There's
We'll
nothing
wait 1
on
minute.
social media presently.
We will wait 1 more minute so we can all stare at each other in our tiny little boxes.
Looks like we can say hi to Jonathan.
Hello.
Hello, Jonathan. Would you like to speak? It's your turn.
Just wanted to see the boxes.
We scared him away.
I missed that, Jackson. Were we waiting for citizens' comments?
We are.
Okay, I have a few comments. If, there we go. First of all, express condolences to the West Lafayette City Council for the loss of their councilman who was noted in the paper and I knew served the community very well. So tough loss there. Second, while we're waiting, I just wondered how our COVID members are doing. I think we had Greg and Jerry both had COVID last time and hopefully recovering well.
I'm feeling better, much better.
Thank you. Same here. Janet and I both are, we're doing okay. It's just the, you can't get enough rest. You start out in the morning with a big, hey, I'm going to get this done. And an hour later, you're down. So, yeah, it hit pretty hard. But thank you. Thank you for your thoughts and prayers.
Okay. That's it for me, Jackson.
I have good news. Brian and I have an appointment for our vaccines on February 8th.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, without that, we will we'll take that motion, Gary.
I move to adjourn.
There we go. Hey, thank you all once again. Staff, great job on the electronics again. We can't thank you enough for getting us through all this. Zach? Peace, my man.
Yep, thank you.
Yes, and it was great working with you.
Same here, guys. Take
And
care.
remember Tuesday.
Yep.
Remember Tuesday.
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 Don't be a stranger, Zach.
I won't.
This
Good.
conference is